All right, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today. The Suwon Derby, you were commentating on that game. It ended Suwon FC 2, Suwon Blue Wings 1. First of all, what did you think of the game as a spectacle?
I mean,
Derby game.
I sigh because I was a bit disappointed in the Blue Wings particularly, and I was hoping for more. We know that this is a fixture that can throw up lots of goals, but I kind of expected, and I wasn't making too much of a secret of this in the commentary even, I kind of expected the Blue Wings to come up with a strong showing and maybe actually to be favourites to win the game, even though in recent seasons Suwon FC have shown they're more than capable of beating not only the Blue Wings but any team in the division, and rightfully have aspirations for top half. I just felt they were missing Park Ju-ho, they were missing Lee Seung-woo. I didn't know that they had the balance in their team that would be able to overcome the Blue Wings, who I think, frankly, have strengthened overall, both with players coming back from military service and some of the acquisitions they've made. I think they'd made some funny signings in recent years that didn't quite settle. That they look better to me than they have in a while. They are probably still lacking an Oh Hyun-gyu type striker. But Faisal Mulic is not fit yet, and they still have An Byung-jun, who we know can be a threat. I think that both the Blue Wings and Suwon FC continue with this under-22 madness, which means their games don't really get going for 20 minutes, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah,
And,
did you see Lee
yeah,
Seung-woo's tweet about it, albeit in Spanish? Lee Seung-woo has obviously voiced his displeasure with the rule. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look, let me just clarify. I'm not criticizing the rule itself in the way that Lee Seung-woo was. I mean, he made this argument, well, why not have over 35s or something like that? And I, as far as my translation of Spanish was concerned, I think that's what he was saying. To me, that's not the point at all. I mean, clearly they're trying to promote young talent coming through in the Korean game, and that's great. And I'm all in favour. I actually think, why not have that rule in the Premier League and other leagues around the world as well, to promote domestic talent coming through. It's not a bad thing. We could have that debate anyway. I don't think it's an absurd rule by any means. My cause for being dismayed is that these managers decide, and they've been doing this for a while, it's not a new thing this season, to play their 2 under-22s in the first 15, 20, 25 minutes of a game. And I think that the Blue Wings particularly were punished for that against Jeonbuk when they could have won the game. They looked fantastic once they brought on An Byung-jun and Maxwell Acosti. The problem was against Suwon FC, my expectation that would happen again didn't happen when they brought on An Byung-jun and Maxwell Acosti. They'd already lost a lot of their steam, and they didn't take the game on. And in fact, Suwon FC grew into it, so it went quite the other way. And I think the Blue Wings would have been much better off starting the game with An Byung-jun and Maxwell Acosti, continuing the momentum of the Jeonbuk game, and then bring the under-22s on later if they want to. I mean, you don't have to make 5 changes. We're not in a fixture pile-up. It's the beginning of the season. Got no midweek games. Why play under-22s for no reason? It doesn't do them any favours to throw them in that situation. And they do have, promising youngsters coming through. Great. Bring them on for the last 15 minutes and see how they get on. Or play them for a half and see how they get on.
Indeed, yeah, I totally agree with you. In terms of the victors, though, Suwon FC, were they deserved winners on the balance of play, do you think?
Yeah, in the end, yeah, I think so. But as I said, I was disappointed with the Blue Wings. I'm not even a fan of the Blue Wings. I've never lived in Suwon. This is not coming from, I should make it clear, I'm not like some disgruntled Blue Wings fan. I think they, like FC Seoul, have had the problem for years of underachieving and not fulfilling their stature. But Suwon FC, I think, been wonderful how they've continued to defy expectations since returning to KLU 1. And, there's a lot of positives to be said about them. I just think that maybe with the suspension to Lee Seung-woo and Park Ju-ho missing, they lacked a bit of balance. They lost Kim Gon-ung to Jeonbuk, obviously, and he provided a bit of bite in midfield that they maybe have lost. But, they show that year after year they can do enough to keep moving forward. I don't think that Suwon FC squad overall is balanced enough to challenge for more than just top half status. But I may be wrong about that. I think they were worthy winners on the day.
And the season for them, it starts now, I suppose. Do you see them going on and sort of putting it together a good run of results?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got these players like Lee Kwang-hyuk who have come in, and despite what I'm talking about, the overall balance, I think, in terms of their attacking potential, they have some interesting options. They lost players, they added some players, but Lee Kwang-hyuk can be that sort of Moneyball type signing that Im Sang-hyuk proved to be for Pohang before he's now obviously moved to Seoul. Lee Kwang-hyuk's younger, but is one of these players who always shows he could do something. Popped up with an unconventional goal for him with a header against the Blue Wings, but when you've got him and Lee Seung-woo potentially charging either side of someone like Lars Velvik, Suwon FC can punish anyone on their day. They just have to learn not to concede so many goals. But, this season is early to judge in that way.
Yeah, lots of goals involving Suwon FC games last year. I think it was 119 in total. Most of them went the opposite end from where they would have been hoping. But in terms of the Blue Wings, if you were a Blue Wings fan, would you be concerned about what you've seen so far? Or is there signs that things are going to get better?
I'm not quite sure what to say at this point. The jury's out, definitely. I would be concerned that, to come into the season with the reinforcements that they've made, Maxwell Acosta is potentially a really good K-League One acquisition. I do think they need to have another striker. So, I mean, if Mulic is not going to be fit regularly, I don't know what his fitness status is long term. I think it's a hamstring injury. But if they don't find a way to regularly score goals, they're going to rely heavily on goals from elsewhere. You can't say that Maxwell Acosta is going to cut inside and score goals in the top corner like he did against Jeonbuk every week. There is that lack there, but I think they've got more than enough to be top half challengers. Lee Byung-gun, he had a mixed season last year, to say the least, and they only just stayed up by the skin of their teeth. And I never like to pile pressure on managers, especially seemingly good character like Lee Byung-gun, who is likable, but I'm not sure whether he is the right man to steer them. And that might be a similar situation with FC Seoul, who we're going to talk about as well, because I think it's a club with a lot of potential. They need to be showing full ambition in every single respect: managerial, selection, transfer market, and they've got such a great support base that they have to be a top half team. They just have to be. I think they've got that potential, but certainly when you look at the results so far, they didn't capitalize on their chances against Gwangju. Jeonbuk, okay, you wouldn't expect to just go up against Jeonbuk and win, but they should have on the balance of that game, the way they came back into it, and certainly shouldn't have lost against Suwon FC, in my opinion.
This one was, eventful, to say the very least. It ended 2-1 to Ulsan. Na Sang-ho gave Seoul the lead, but then Ju Min-kyu leveled almost instantly. And then I'm sure everyone has now seen the error from the goalkeeper, Che Chol-won. Let's just start with that error, Alex. What did you make of what happened, and what did you say on commentary?
Yeah, I don't think I've been that speechless in any situation, commentating or otherwise, for a while. I just didn't know what to say. I was like, what's going on here? It's just totally bizarre. I felt sorry for the keeper. He's had a lot of criticism out of this, and I think there've been claims on social media that he should maybe even be replaced. But I think he's been brilliant for Seoul this season. He's been a solid option. I was at the Incheon game. I went to Seoul World Cup Stadium after commentating on another game, and I saw that live, and I was impressed with him then. I didn't see live the Seoul victory at Gwangju, but by all accounts, it wasn't the most exciting of games. I don't know how much pressure the keeper came under, but against Ulsan, Seoul were going toe to toe with them. Ulsan were very disappointing, by the way. I mean, that's something to be said. But as for the error itself, I was kind of disappointed in Ulsan. They threw the ball back to Seoul. In the sort of sporting way that happens week in, week out in games. but they didn't seem to give them any space to work with. So I think it was Kim Joo-sung who's like feeling under pressure because he's got Martin Adam and Asaka Ataru like right there, and Lee Chung-yong's coming in, and he passes it back to the keeper. And the keeper, I mean, again, we've seen this a few times this season already. Back passes leaving goalkeepers in a bit of trouble. If I'd been the goalkeeper in that situation, I think I would have just kicked it out of play again. Like, feeling under pressure. Like, what's going on? It was supposed to be giving the ball back to us so that we can so we can get underway again. But they're straight away putting under pressure in our own penalty box. If I was the keeper, I'd hit it out of play and be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But instead, you could tell this is all in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds at the most. He's looking up at the referee and he's looking up at his players like, what can I do? What do I, there's players coming in and I've got nothing else to do. Do I pick it up or what? Yeah. Like, what is this? Like, he was confused. What's going on? Maybe he didn't even know what Martin Adam was doing when he threw it back to Kim Joo-sung. But Kim Joo-sung passed it in the most relaxed, casual way towards the keeper that it kind of felt like the ball wasn't even in play. It's just a weird situation from the off.
Strange. Then you see Osmar sort of gesticulating to sort of send it long. And then what happens next? Obviously, you see Osmar just like his arms are sort of
Osmar seemed to know better than anyone else what was actually going on.
Yeah.
But I think the keeper, whether it was just a moment of madness, which happens from time to time, and it's a very unforgiving position to have one of them, or whether it was actually, a bit of fault on Ulsan's side, and which, again, I think from Ulsan's point of view, it was not sporting at all. What left a bad taste in the mouth was that Lee Chung-yong, going back to his former club, Seoul, celebrates the winner as if he's done anything particularly worthwhile scoring that winner. All he's done is capitalize on a moment of madness.
Yeah.
They've taken the quick free kick, which, again, something that they obviously agree with the referee beforehand. So taking the free kick quickly is not wrong in itself, but taking it quickly under those circumstances when Seoul had no one back because they had, this throw-in situation from an Ulsan player throwing it back to Seoul. But, again, normally in that, the player will throw it for a goal kick or they'll throw it to the goalkeeper and allow the goalkeeper to kick it out again. So the whole thing just didn't feel sporting. And I think it would be really wrong to put too much blame on the goalkeeper. The referee, I think, they're appealing to the referee after. It's like, come on, you've got to do something, but you can't. We've had weird situations in the past. Wasn't there a situation with Leeds in the past where the manager Bielsa ordered his team to concede a goal right away afterwards because it was like an unsporting situation?
There was also one in the late 90s with Arsenal against Sheffield United when Steve Bruce was in charge of Sheffield United. And I think Arsenal had scored in a similar kind of situation where the throw-in was taken or a drop ball maybe, and they went and scored from it when obviously they shouldn't really have done that. And then Arsenal offered to replay the game, but it wasn't technically against the rules. It was unsporting, like you said, but it wasn't against the rules, and the result stood. So yeah, there have been some. It is a grey area, isn't it? Because it is sport. It's about sportsmanship rather than the rules of the game. So it's very interesting where that kind of where those two things meet.
This is a sport, and if we're not going to abide by or promote sporting behaviour, then what's the point? It's not exactly the same type of thing, but it's a bit like the debate on diving. Some people praise diving as a skill, others feel it's just completely wrong. And I'm probably in the latter camp. I think it's morally wrong in this situation. It's not just a contest between players. You got thousands of paying fans who are there to see a sporting contest, not a battle of who can get one up over the other in these kind of unusual situations. So that's my view on it. I was disappointed with Ulsan and Lee Chung-yong. I also just don't think they deserve to get much out of the game. Maybe a draw. I mean, the equaliser straight away was very unlucky from Seoul's point of view. I think it was Ki Sung-yong who slid in and accidentally played it into Joo Min-gyu's path. And fortuitous. And Ulsan have been lucky this season. I thought they were lucky against Jeonbuk as well. Jeonbuk outplayed them in their opening game, and then Ulsan did come back into it in the second half. But again, it was a back pass situation, a very weird back pass situation where a young goalkeeper of Jeonbuk made the error. And on that occasion, I wouldn't say it was unsporting for Ulsan. They had every right to Ludvigsson to run in and score, but bizarre circumstances which didn't feel fully deserved. This one was more of an unsporting question mark, as I said, but overall, Ulsan should be worried because they've not played well at all. And if they carry on like this, surely teams are going to find the better of them. The flip side of that is title winners, and we saw Jeonbuk do this for years, often win when they're not playing at their best, and that's how they win titles. So if they can survive a poor run of form in terms of performances and then actually start performing well and still winning, then they're in a great place.
Absolutely, and you will have seen, I'm sure, in the feed that Jurgen Klinsmann was there watching. What do you think he would have made of the Korean national team players that were on the pitch? Were they any that you think that might have caught his eye? Ju Min-gyu scored, and I think he admitted that afterwards it is something that he does think about.
Yeah,
he's been left out of this squad, but what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's unfortunate, but Ju Min-gyu, he's just not the sort of player who suits South Korea's national team. I don't think. He's great in the K League, and there are other leagues I'm sure he'd thrive as well. He's very physical. So, in some way, the Korean Martin Adam. Obviously different sort of player, but he's just very physical. But he's someone who will capitalize on mix-ups. He's someone who will get in the air in players' faces, and he'll impose himself, and he will score goals in the K League. But I don't think against many international opponents. Depends on the opponents. I don't think South Korea's future now under Jurgen Klinsmann, they need to be looking at talent coming through. It'd be better if you're going to play a physical sort of striker to put Oh Hyun-gyu in there, for example. And there's plenty of other strikers to choose from as well. I like Ju Min-gyu. Nothing against him personally. I don't think that's a progressive step for South Korea. On the more progressive side of things, I was hoping Oh Won-sang might show more of himself, but like Ulsan generally, he was fairly disappointing. And Seoul showed more for themselves. Lee Tae-seok as a left back showed a lot more for himself as a young left back, for example, than Oh Won-sang did as a right winger in that particular battle. Na Sang-ho, not a big fan of him playing for South Korea, but he showed more of himself than Oh Won-sang in the game as well. Hwang Hee-jo is a big question, though, isn't he? He's showing lots of desire for Seoul, but maybe not showing the goal scoring experience quite yet. I'm sure they will come, those goals from him.
Yeah, you'd like to hope so. I want to ask you about that situation, and kind of ties in with Ilyichenko as well, the situation with him. I have seen people say that he's not quite fit enough yet, but 45 minutes against Gwangju, off at half-time. He played just over an hour against Ulsan, and I think was playing better than Hwang Hee-jo, but he got taken off, and Hwang Hee-jo he remained on the field. What do you make of this situation with Ilyichenko? He's the captain, of course, but he's not played that much.
Yeah, well, so Seoul's situation is very different to the Blue Wings in the particulars, but generally I would draw the comparison that both of them are not making the most of the talent they have. In Seoul's case, Ilyichenko and Hwang Hee-jo, I'm not convinced by that partnership. I'd love to see both of them starting every week, but actually Park Dong-jin, when he came on, Seoul actually kind of looked better with him on the field. They looked like they had a bit more dynamism up front. We know what Ilyichenko can do, though, and whether it's fitness or what it is, I don't know. I think they need to be finding a way to make Ilyichenko work for them. If they're not making Ilyichenko work for them, if they end up in a situation, for example, where he's on the bench and Hwang Hee-jo starting just because he's there on loan for the first half of the season, they can't expect Ilyichenko just to be there ready to be a goal-scoring striker when Hwang Hee-jo leaves. They'll end up with a similar situation that Jeonbuk had when they just left. Jeonbuk and Ulsan had great strikers in Ilyichenko, Gustavo, and Leonardo. But when you leave these types of players out the team and then just throw them in,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't expect it just to work. I'd fear the same for Ulsan and Martin Adam, frankly, a really effective goal scorer at this level. But if you rotate him in and out with Ju Min-gyu, I think Ju Min-gyu has got enough about him and enough K-League experience to drift out of games and just pop up with the odd goal. But Martin Adam, I'm not sure whether it's going to suit him to just be sitting on the bench for half the season. But again, coming back to Seoul, they substituted off several top players. I mean, I was surprised when they brought off Hwang Hee-jo, frankly, as well. Maybe they cost themselves in the game overall. For example, when Ulsan went 2-1 up under those bizarre circumstances, Seoul should have been pushing for an equalize, but looked like Seoul had nothing to offer. The enterprise that they had earlier in the game was all gone at that point. So, you're absolutely right. Ilychenko, captain, weird. The only possible explanation is there's a fitness thing there, and we just have to kind of put that conversation on ice for a few more games and then revisit it. But it is a worrying sign. And as for Hwang Hee-jo, they've only got him for a few months. I'm pretty sure he's going to be off. And if he's not off, it'll be a sign that he didn't perform for Seoul, which is probably not a great thing either. I'm not really in the camp that thinks Seoul are going to be title challengers just because they've got Hwang Hee-jo, but they should definitely, like the Blue Wings, be a top half team. And 2 wins from the opening 2. They hadn't done that for a while, not since before the pandemic. That's a good omen for them. But they need to be making sure they don't fall into the same trap of last year when they lost twice to Ulsan 2-1. Including under rather unfortunate circumstances when Leonardo scored a late penalty in one of those games. So I think Seoul, Aneksu has a big job to do this year. He simply cannot fail to deliver on the top half promise. If he does, then, Seoul are going to have to think very carefully.
Yes, let's revisit, I think, these situations again further down the line, see how the likes of the Blue Wings and FC Seoul are doing. But Alex, let's look ahead to this weekend. You are on duty for obviously 2 games: Gwangju FC versus Incheon United, and then Ulsan Hyundai versus Suwon FC. Now, which one of those 2 games are you looking forward to the most, and why?
In theory, the answer should be very quickly and easily Ulsan versus Suwon FC. But my hesitancy with declaring that one as the match of the weekend is that Ulsan have been starting very slow. They don't even show up in the first half, which is really disappointing based on the fact that I think a lot of their success in recent years has been built on being perhaps one of the most, if not the most attractive team to watch in the K-League. Again, it comes back to what we say about sporting behaviour. I think it's nice to try to win in a way that pleases the crowd. They're there to watch a game, not just to watch a result. Don't want to sound overly idealistic, but it's also my interest as a commentator to have some entertainment.
Sure.
Suwon FC, again, will probably not show up for the opening few minutes either. They'll probably be very cagey. So I'd say that could be a great second half. And I'm very curious to see if Suwon FC are able to continue to potentially upset. They will again be without Lee Seung-woo, I believe, though, suspended.
Yeah.
They'll have to dig in and be ready to put up with what Ulsan throw at them. But based on what I've seen so far from Ulsan, it might not be quite as challenging a test as you would expect for Suwon going there, and they might come away with a draw. Let's see. As for the other game, I'm intrigued to see Gwangju for the first time for a whole game this season. And I think, that the jury's totally out on them. It's been a topsy-turvy season already. They've had 10 men lose to Seoul. They obviously managed to ride their luck a bit and beat the Blue Wings. They have come up against the Jeonbuk side that were always going to respond, I think, at home, and that was never going to be one that you could predict to be a Gwangju result. So this maybe would be one of the first games for Gwangju where we say, right, what have you got to show us? It's not the opening day against the Blue Wings. We're now round 4, and this will perhaps be a fairer reflection of exactly where they're at against an Incheon side that I'm really excited by. I think Incheon actually are looking more balanced than they started last year when they relied heavily on Magosa's goals, and they've got a lot going for them. And if they can consistently keep their exciting new acquisitions fit, Gesso scoring against his former club, didn't he, at the weekend? If the players like him can perform for them, I can see Incheon being a Champions League qualifier again, especially when you've got teams like Seoul and Blue Wings and other teams that should be competing for those top 4 positions, being a little more unpredictable. I think Incheon have got great management, good transfer policy, all round really exciting club. I would love, though, overall to see more of these outside clubs just taking that next step to get a little closer to Jeonbuk and Ulsan, because when the dust settles a little bit after maybe 10 to 15 rounds, we are probably, based on what we've seen so far this season, probably left again with an Ulsan Jeonbuk title race. And at that, maybe if Ulsan can keep winning when they're not playing well, and if they can win consistently, maybe not so much a 2-horse race as one of these situations where one horse races ahead and you're thinking, can they sustain it?
Yeah, I think the hope is that teams like Pohang can carry on. Obviously, they're still unbeaten. Like you said,
I'm not sure about that.
No, yeah.
Kim Ki-dong has done a great job, but can they keep losing talent? And I mean, Pohang, opposite of Incheon, bad in the transfer market, but somehow they hold it together.
Well, it's like you said earlier, the Moneyball approach, they've done it again, really. They've brought in sort of K-League 2 players, some at least, Baek Sung-dong, for example. And, well, so far, they've obviously only 3 rounds in, but so far they've kind of got away with it, and we'll see how they sort of work throughout the course of the season. But, Alex, thanks very much for your time today. And yeah, let's revisit this again after 10 rounds maybe, and see how everything's
whenever.
Tables. Yeah,
I'm more than happy to discuss things while the jury's out. And by the way, I should add, just based on what you just said there, that I'd like to credit Pohang's astute signings. I just think a club of that size, if they had the same skill in the transfer market and just went to the next level of Moneyball, they could be title challengers every year.
Yeah. Fair enough. There we go. All right, Alex, thanks very much for your time. And we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.